This is honestly something I've been debating whether or not to share for a long time, because even talking about it brings back feelings I've been trying to forget for years. But I feel like if I don't get it out somewhere, it'll keep haunting me, just like that house did. I was 20 when this happened. My parents had just bought what was supposed to be our dream home. You know how families get. There's all this excitement, the plans, the little arguments about furniture placement. Everyone imagining a fresh start. That's exactly where we were. The house was bigger than anything we'd lived in before. 2 stories, 4 bedrooms, a long hallway upstairs, and this huge backyard. It wasn't modern or anything. It had this old, slightly creaky vibe, but my parents thought it had character. At first, nothing about it felt wrong, but sometimes it takes a little while for a place to reveal itself. The first couple of nights were fine, but then I started waking up around 3 a.m. every single night. I'd just bolt upright for no reason, feeling like something had pulled me out of sleep. The air would feel heavy, like the whole room was holding its breath. I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe I was just adjusting to the new place. But one night, when I got up to grab water, I swear I saw someone standing at the far end of the upstairs hallway. It was just a shadow, motionless, barely visible in the faint glow from the streetlight outside. I froze, thinking maybe it was my dad. I whispered his name, but whatever it was didn't move. Then, right as I blinked, it was gone. I told myself I imagined it. That's what you do, right? You rationalize, because the alternative is way too scary to process. A week later, we all started hearing things. At first, it was footsteps upstairs when no one was up there. Then, faint knocking on walls. Sometimes my mum would ask if I'd been opening and closing my bedroom door in the middle of the night, but I hadn't. One night, I woke up again at 3 a.m. and heard this soft humming. It was coming from inside my room, but it wasn't me. It was low and broken, like someone trying to sing but forgetting the melody. I turned on my lamp, and the sound stopped immediately. After that, I started sleeping with my TV on just to drown out the silence. Things escalated the night I invited my friend over. My parents had this office dinner, so the house was ours for the evening. I'd been telling her about the weird things happening, and she joked that we should contact the spirit using a Ouija board. I didn't want to. I'd always been told not to mess with that stuff. But she insisted. So we set up in the extra bedroom upstairs. We lit a couple of candles, put the board down, and started asking questions, laughing nervously at first. For a while, nothing happened, until the planchette moved on its own. I thought my friend was messing with me, but she swore she wasn't. It spelled out Hello. I asked, "Who are you?" The planchette slid slowly, almost reluctantly, spelling out SHE. Before I could even process it, the candles flickered violently, and the temperature in the room dropped. My friend started panicking, saying we should close the session. But before we could, the planchette flew off the board like someone had slapped it. We screamed and ran out of the room, slamming the door shut behind us. After that night, the house felt different. Doors started slamming when no one was near them. We'd hear whispering in empty rooms. Sometimes, at night, I'd wake up to the sound of someone breathing right next to my bed. Slow, heavy, ragged breaths. But no one was there. One morning, my mum found scratches on the hallway wall upstairs. She thought maybe we'd done it accidentally, but they were too deep. We didn't tell my parents about the Ouija board, but part of me knew we'd invited something in. Or maybe, just maybe, We'd given something that was already there permission to make itself known. This is the part that still makes me nauseous to think about. One night, I was brushing my teeth in the upstairs bathroom when I saw movement in the mirror. At first, I thought it was just my reflection shifting, but when I leaned in, I froze. In the mirror behind me, standing in the hallway, was a woman. Her skin was deathly pale, her black hair tangled and damp-looking, clinging to her face. She was wearing what looked like an old, torn black dress. But the worst part, her eyes. They weren't just dark, they were empty, like there was nothing inside her at all. I turned around instantly, but the hallway was empty. When I looked back at the mirror, she was gone. That's when I knew this wasn't just random old house noises anymore. Things reached a breaking point when one night, every single door in the house slammed shut at the same time. My parents were terrified now. My mum called a local priest someone had recommended, and he came the next day. The moment he stepped inside, he froze. He said he felt something dark here. He started blessing the rooms, sprinkling holy water and reciting prayers. But when he reached the extra bedroom, the one where we'd used the Ouija board, something happened. The temperature dropped so fast I could see my breath. The priest's voice faltered, and then he stumbled back like someone had shoved him. His candle went out on its own. He looked at my parents and said, "You need to leave. This house isn't safe." We begged him to keep trying, but he shook his head, his face pale. He told us this wasn't just a haunting. There was an evil female entity attached to the property, and whatever she was, she didn't want us there. We moved out within the week. We didn't even take half of our things. We just packed essentials and left. The weirdest part? My parents tried selling the house afterward. It's been years now, and no one's bought it. Every potential buyer either backs out after touring it, or something strange happens during the process. Random fires, pipes bursting, windows shattering on their own. People even report feeling sick or dizzy in certain rooms. We even tried putting it up for rent once. A young couple moved in. They lasted barely 3 weeks before breaking the lease. Then another family came. Same thing. No one has ever stayed longer than a month. Everyone says the same thing, that something evil lives there and that they hear a woman's voice whispering to them at night. Last I heard, the house is still sitting there, slowly rotting away, swallowed by weeds and shadows. The neighbors say they still see lights flicker inside, even though the power's been cut for years. And sometimes, at night, people claim they hear a woman humming from the second floor. We never went back, and honestly, I don't think anyone should. This happened about 5 years ago when I was 30. I was driving back home with my friend Jason after visiting my parents. It was late, around 1:30 in the morning, and we'd taken this long, empty highway that cuts through miles of nothingness. No streetlights, no houses, no gas stations, just pitch black fields on both sides and a road so quiet it almost felt unnatural. We were about 2 hours into the drive when we heard this weird thumping sound coming from the back of the car. At first, I thought it was just the road, but then the steering wheel started pulling to the left a little. Jason looked at me, and we both knew what it meant: flat tire. I pulled over onto the shoulder, and the second I turned off the engine, the silence hit us like a wall. Out there, It wasn't like the city where you always hear something in the background. Traffic, people, music. Here, there was nothing. Just the faint sound of crickets somewhere in the distance and the occasional whisper of wind against the car. Jason got out first and opened the trunk to grab the spare while I used my phone's flashlight to check the damage. Sure enough, the rear passenger side tire was shredded. I crouched down to loosen the lug nuts, and Jason held the light for me. That's when I noticed something. Out in the distance, maybe 30, 40 feet away, standing at the edge of the tree line, there was a figure. I froze, squinting, trying to make out who it was. My first thought was that it was just another driver, maybe someone who had car trouble too. But then my stomach dropped. Whoever it was, they weren't moving, just standing there, perfectly still, watching us. "Do you see that?" I whispered. Jason followed my gaze, and I heard him mutter, "What the hell?" under his breath. Before we could react, the figure stepped forward into the pale wash of our hazard lights, and that's when I saw her. It was a woman. She was barefoot, wearing this long, faded white dress that looked old, like something from decades ago. Her hair was dark and messy, tangled like she'd been out there for hours. But what really caught me off guard was that she was holding a baby. The baby was wrapped in a thick, cream-colored cloth, tucked so tightly I couldn't see its face, but I could hear it, faint giggling, soft and strange, in the middle of that dead, quiet night. Jason and I exchanged a look, both of us silently agreeing that this was off. Still, I called out, trying to sound calm. "Hey, are you okay? Do you need help?" The woman didn't answer right away. She just kept walking slowly, barefoot on the cold asphalt, cradling that bundle in her arms. When she finally stopped a few feet away, she spoke in this soft, almost flat voice. "Please, we need a ride." Now, normally, I'd never pick up a random stranger in the middle of nowhere at 2 a.m. But something about the way she said it, calm, controlled, but urgent, made me hesitate, and I couldn't stop staring at that baby. Jason leaned close and whispered, "Man, this is a bad idea. Let's just finish the tire and get out of here." But I couldn't just leave her there. So against his protests, I asked where she needed to go. "There's a place down the road," she said quietly, pointing into the darkness. "Just a little further." Her voice, I don't know how to describe it. It was soft but hollow. I finished changing the tire as fast as I could, and we let her sit in the back seat with the baby. She slid in without a word, holding the bundle close, and we started driving. That's when things got weird. The baby started giggling, constantly. At first, it was cute, little baby laughs. But then it just kept going, over and over, non-stop. And the weird thing was, every time I glanced in the rearview mirror, the woman wasn't even looking at the baby. She was staring straight ahead, not blinking, not moving. After maybe 10 minutes, we reached this narrow dirt road she directed us to take. It led to this tiny clearing with nothing but trees and shadows. No house, no lights, no sign of life at all. "This is it," she said softly. She opened the door and stepped out, cradling the bundle, and then paused. Slowly, she leaned into the car, set the baby down on the back seat, and without a word, walked off into the darkness. Mom," Jason called after her, panic in his voice. "You forgot your baby." I turned to look. She was gone. Just gone. I jumped out of the car, shining my phone's flashlight around. There was no sound, no footsteps, no rustling leaves, nothing. She couldn't have gotten far that fast, but there was no trace of her anywhere. And then, the giggling started again. Jason was still inside the car, frozen, staring at the bundle on the back seat. His voice cracked when he said, "Man, it's still laughing." I stepped closer and reached for the cloth. My hands were shaking, my chest tight. I hesitated for a second, then pulled the wrapping open. There was nothing inside, just folds of empty fabric. I dropped the cloth like it burned me, my breath catching in my throat. That's when, right behind me, I heard the woman's voice. "Thank you for the ride." I spun around, flashlight sweeping across the trees, but there was no one there. And then, over everything else, the sound of the baby's giggling grew louder, louder and louder until it filled the entire car. Jason screamed, "Go! Go!" And that was it. I slammed the door, floored the gas, and we tore out of there, gravel kicking up behind us. We didn't stop driving until we hit the next town, and even then, we sat in a brightly lit gas station for almost an hour, shaking and trying to convince ourselves it actually happened.